Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, it's time to trim up the Fukien Tea. It's been about 5 months since we worked on the Fukien Tea. Just after the new year, I pruned it down in the plant room and wanted to see if we were going to be able to let this thing grow, because it's been a little finicky down in the plant room. Usually I get this kind of growth outside after it's been outside for about a month. Then it goes crazy and I bring it indoors and wonder what to do with it. So it grew so much over the winter time in the plant room. I'm excited to prune it now here in June. It's June 25th. Temperature's about 80 degrees. I think it's going to be comfortable with me cutting a few branches off. So it's been nice. Since we brought it outside, we have some additional growth over here. There's a small bit of growth here, this one right here, and this one right here, this one right here. So we're getting some more ramification from these 2 feet of growth. So it's been so cool to see growth. But now we're going to try to cut it down and to figure out what we're going to do with this guy. So you can go ahead and check the playlist for the Fukien Tea. It's gone through a little bit of transformation. There was a big old loss right here. So this tree came up here, then curled up here, kind of that traditional S shape. A lot of Fukien Teas in the nurseries, if you find them, have that traditional S curve. Sometimes they're just a little too obnoxiously S curve for me. So I wasn't too sad about that death per se. I was just concerned that I was going to lose my tree, but it's been growing and doing well ever since. So what to do with this tree? So that right now is kind of the front. If I transplant this guy, will I ever do something really much different? I don't like how it's straight up here, and then that angle's a little bit harsh, so I can't go any more. Well, right now it's almost straight up, so we're going to try to maybe curve it up a little bit. Can I tilt it one way or the other? So we'll worry about that with repotting it probably next year. So we're just going to trim it this year and see what we can make this thing turn out to be. But the question is, if I'm going to do some design work, is this the front or is this the front? Now all the growth is growing right towards the camera as this is the front, but of course on this side you see this big scar and everything's growing away. So if I tilt this up a little bit, I do have this main branch. It kind of hides the scar, so if we tilt it up and go like this, we can see more of the tree. So I may prune it with that as the consideration. Of course, the negative part of that is down here at the root system. There is a root that's growing right kind of here. It does go to an angle, so it's not right out at the camera here. So will that be a little bit of an eyesore? But again, if this is not the true front, maybe we tilt it a little bit more this way, right? Here we go. So, the pond's just started up. The filters are running. The fish will be loving life with some more aeration. I do like the curve of this branch right here better from that angle than the other angle. Either way, the tree's going to be shorter. We want more growth up. I don't know if this is going to have some kind of conical shape this way, you know, conical, I'm not sure. It's just going to be more of a slant at some point, some kind of just, of course, crazy informal upright. This is a nice sweeping branch down here, which could lend to cascade. But that's just kind of drooping in the wrong direction. So the craziest thing about this tree right now is this right here. This branch comes here and then boom. I mean, this is about as 90 degree as you can get right here. The leaves are covering it up, but it's 90 degrees. Now in time, as trees thicken up, if you have an elbow curve like that, it's going to soften over time and have a little bit more curves. As it gets thicker, you'll have a softer bend, but it's just 90 degree and a complete opposite angle, of course, unless I bring it up like this. So you can see with this branch, you know, I can do almost anything with it. And it'd be nice if I did apply a little bit of light wire on this to give it some shape this time around, but I haven't been as big into wiring my trees of late. I've been doing more clip and grow and kind of seeing where things go, but I don't want to wait too long with this tree because it will get stiff and rigid. So when I'm approaching a tree like this and I don't know what to do, I really have to practice the true art of bonsai if you're really being serious, and slowing down, looking at your tree, not worrying so much about the negatives, but trying to bring out what the tree can offer. Do what you can with what you got where you're at. Have you ever heard a phrase like that? I love the phrase, do what you can with what you got where you're at. So where I'm at with this tree is I have that loss, I've got some cool curves, I got these really long growths. So this long growth is helping to thick up the trunk. We'll cut it back, we'll get a long growth for the rest of this really nice growing season. We've got the rest of June, July, August, even into September, and then we'll take care of it down in the plant room. This branch right here, as I mentioned earlier, over to the left, over to the left. There's a little one back here behind a leaf you can't see, over to the left, over to the right. I can cut this thing right here already, and I'd have some more energy going to these shoots instead of it trying to get longer. Same with this branch, but there's only a couple of them. One right here, and then one right back here you can't see, right there, a little tiny one. So I could at least cut back down to there. So I can cut to those points to begin with, and then just hope it starts to split some more and just let it shoot out again. Because again, do I have to make a design for this tree today to be happy with for this bonsai? No. But a lot of people talk about having a vision for the future. And though I don't have a huge vision other than it's got a nice curve right now, this nice curve here, what to do? These crisscross right here, whether you're the front or I'm the front, these two right here crisscross. So they're just growing, they're growing out like this and they go boom and cross each other. We certainly don't want that. There's some nice, all kinds of sets of leaves here. I got an internode here. You got an internode at the base, internode here, internode here, internode here. I got 4 internodes there I can cut back to and see if we can get more upward growth. So again, I'm going to cut this one here, and we'll save that maybe for a propagation. So that was this guy right here, no longer crossing with this one. And again, if this becomes the front, and I tilt it a little bit, gosh, I can even twist this branch. This has some easy twisting motion. But we know these are just all too long. We want them to split up. So again, I'm going to cut back to where there's buds growing up on this case, so I can get more height on the tree. And then this back one, do the same thing. Possible cuttings. So there's the right half of the tree, or the left if you're looking at it from this direction. Got some nice thick foliage here, but what will it do next? I got a split here into 2. One trying to grow right here. So we got 1, 2, and back here 3. If this continues to grow up taller, we're hoping for some height. So what to do with this guy? So if that becomes the front, these two are looking right at you. Boom. We would tilt it up more a little bit here, but it's still growing really odd that way. If this is the front, they just go so far backwards here. But here's where all the splits are, right here. And then none anywhere here, so I'm going to cut it there for sure. Possible cutting. And now, worst case scenario, I have this swooping branch this way, and maybe something else will branch off here from cutting that tip off. Maybe we'll get some more oxen that spreads down here. And again, now as you can see, possibly, if I push this branch up, now I have this S curve again that I'm not really crazy about, so I don't want it necessarily to be S, but I do want it to maybe be more up. So here's all my division here. I'm going to cut down to that lowest division. Another possible cutting. So I've got 2 or 3 I could use as cutting. This is that really big L branch. Boom, and then boom. 90 degrees there. What will it do? We'll just shorten this guy. We're going to shorten this guy. Now essentially I just trimmed them all shorter. Nothing super fancy with this pruning job right now. Just trying to make everything more compact, seeing where the long tips can shove that auxin, that hormone down, and get the cytokinin hormones going to kind of make it want to go more this way instead of straight up and be tall and big, which most trees want to do at some level. And then monkeying with the angles. Nothing I did right there is extremely detrimental, and I hope it's more helpful. So the last time I pruned this guy, I pruned it right here. There's a stub there. And then the branch took off this way. But if I want it to grow higher, I've got a big cluster of leaves right there and a bud that looks like it's about ready to shoot off. So if I cut it here again, I might get some more upward growth instead of down growth. So I'm going to do that with this one. Take that risk and hope that this branch right here, this starts to shoot up right there. All the auxin's down here now and can just make this explode. I don't know if you can see right here, but I got one little flower that's blooming in there right now. This thing flowers periodically throughout the whole year. It's pretty cool. So, nothing too attractive at the moment, but as things hopefully spread out this summer and I get that next push of hopefully a foot or more growth, boom, we'll see what happens with the Fukien. But this side still is a little long and leggy, right? Or just kind of too much out there. I do not want to make a great big old curve here. So even though I had 2 branches here, I've got one here as well. So I'm going to cut that off. These two hopefully won't compete against each other that much. Plus there's this crossing branch over here. So what do I do with that? Maybe I take this whole branch off. You may take this whole branch off here and let this be the new leader, if you will. Or does this one come off? So this branch right here crosses this back one right here. Do we get rid of the back crossing one, or do we get rid of this one? If I were to make this go down here more, these don't cross as much. This doesn't cross even as much, and this can maybe be brought up here if we get some upward growth. If I cut this one off right here, then it's just this one branch again. Just curving around up here, making kind of an S curve again. So this gave it some ramification, but is it the right kind of ramification based on where it's at? So if I take this off right here, and they're not competing against each other, and this is that big branch. And that makes more sense to me. Here's my logic. This is going to be maybe new tall apexy stuff. This is the lower branch, which is going to be thicker and longer on the outside. It looks like this branch is trying to grow out this way and up this way, and so it doesn't even make sense that much. So let's cut it off. Get rid of that L altogether. This is a thick enough branch with another growth here. I might be able to propagate this as well. So I'll try to propagate that guy. So as I get more into my bonsai practice, I'm not afraid as those cuts as I used to be. Before I'd be like real nervous to do that. But look at how it cleaned up that section now. Those branches, this big branch here is not competing against all this other stuff. So my other debate is to just cut this off and let's see what happens here. But with this new growth right here, and who knows if they, well, I'm just going to leave it for a little bit longer here. There we go. So there is the Fukien Tea. It's been 5 months since I pruned it. It's the middle, towards the end of June. Now it can just go crazy for the rest of the summer. And we'll see what happens when we put it in for the fall and go back down into the plant room. The Fukien Tea. We'll give that a spin. The next tree I'm going to work on today, another tropical tree, is I believe a Ficus Microcarpa. Now there's all kinds of ficus out there. There are dozens and dozens of species. And I've had some experience with the melon seed ficus. I've got a variegated Benjamina. And this one, I'm not 100% certain, but I think it's one of the Microcarpa varieties of ficus. A little bit bigger leaf than a Benjamina. And this one was from a cutting from a workshop from the Minnesota Bonsai Society from about 4 years ago. So this was just a scrap of a tree. And we last worked on this one about 5 months ago. So again, it's June 25th. We got all the tropicals out in their glory in the sunshine. A lot of new growth since I brought it outside. So we're loving life. We're gonna give this thing a little bit of a trim. Nothing major. We're gonna trim it down though. So we'll see. I say nothing major, then I get into the tree and who knows what's going to happen. So this is the proposed front of the tree. It splits first right there, kind of the primary branch. This is the main tree trunk, I believe, from the beginning, what I was thinking about, and it's got this side over here. So we almost have a triple split there. They're not from the same location, so right now I'm not getting any weird bulges right here. This was part of the tree right here. This is an old wound that's almost completely healed right here, completely shut. So that's really nice to see. So it kind of has like a hand coming out and grabbing at you or hugging you this way. This could be an interesting front someday if I got rid of some of this. And this is an example right here of what we'll be cutting today. There's 3 branches going from this one spot right here. We've got branch number 1, branch number 2, and branch number 3. Now, most definitely, my first gut reaction is to cut off this one right here because it's growing on the inside. But we have to get rid of 2 of these, not just 1. Otherwise, I think it's going to be too much of a bulge here, but not necessarily. As I walk my neighborhood streets, I see a lot of trees that have multiple branches coming out from an area, and there's not an overwhelming bulge. Again, these are relatively close together, and there's no bulge here. This is self-supporting right here. This one's off of kind of where it splits up to here. It seems to be working out so far. And right away what comes to mind as I'm looking at this tree is this branch right here. And it's not so much that it's growing out to you, because you can see a lot of design in the tree from here down. But this one is growing out towards us, but it's really close to where this main branch does split off from the trunk. So I'm going to open up the tree a little more and get rid of that there. Now you can see this trunk, and see this right here now won't be shaded out as much, and maybe this one can grow because we have this trunk, this tree branch growing down here, and then this one up here. They're growing different directions from each other. This may not last long because we want to maybe see through the tree to those back branches. But if you can see past that, the threesome I was talking about moments ago, the 3 branches are right back in there. So let's tackle the left side of the tree first. I seem to be liking to go from left to right lately. We've got this branch here that comes up, swoops up, curves over a little bit. There's even a little indent right in here. Then it comes and curves here. And there's this little branch growing out right here, which is kind of nice. And this one right here is growing up real nice and tall. We're just going to cut that one shorter, again, for summer growth, to let it do what it needs to do. Got some sap coming out already. You can't see because the leaf is covering it up. And then we got this right here. So without any wiring here, you got this curve up here, you got this curve that's going back this way, then down over here, and then this curve up here. Super nice movement on this tree. with hardly, I don't know if I might have wired this a long time ago. Now we do have a little gap here with no leaves, but if I cut this one right there, I've got these two potentials to grow out here. This one is going to see more light now, and maybe we'll get some back budding down here. I could even cut it down to this curvy branch here, and we would just have this and this curvy branch, so we'd have all this kind of branches like this. I could even attempt that. There's a bud back here that's trying to grow. It just snapped right off. It was kind of dead, but it was growing between these two branches right here. Not sure. This one is a little bit weaker than these two. Look at how big these two leaves are, and this one's so much smaller. So it's younger, maybe not getting as much energy right now. Cutting this back might encourage that to grow more. We'll see about that one. So that's that branch right there for right now. Now when we go back to this next branch, or it's the middle branch, that's the thickest of all of them actually. It's got stuff going every which way. So as I bring this down here for you, this is, I think, relatively new growth from cutting back last time, but it's growing into this branch right here. So without guy wiring or wiring this down and shoving these branches down a little bit for you, you know, you kind of get that blocked from our view. But this grew out from the trunk back here. It splits into two right here, super nice. So what I'm for sure going to do is I'm going to actually cut it where it splits so it continues to move up, and then these two aren't competing quite as much here. There's nothing really quite crossing yet, but it's pretty darn close. It even splits down here. Look at that. It splits right down there into a nice branch, so that's really good ramification. I'm actually going to cut that off right there. I think I will cut this one off right there. Like I mentioned with the Fukien moments ago, I'm not as afraid to make these cuts all of a sudden a lot quicker than I ever used to. So now this branch that I cut off here, it kind of grows up in curves, and we got this one right here that's doing nice, this one that's growing up. We'll just see what happens there. And this may even come down someday so we can see the inside tree. And then now that lends us to see this one back here a little bit better. And do I even keep that one, or do I go up to here, this secondary branch, or this part of the branch up over here? Now this splits into three up here. Well, here's the main trunk going up. We got a left and a right. And then up here, it splits into two more up there. So of these three, what do I cut off? I'm gonna cut this one. So this continues to grow more out, and we don't cover up some of the back tree back here. And again, I do know these big leaves are in the way right now. So we'll see what we do with that. This is new growth since the plant room. This shot out underneath on this branch. So as we look at our main branch here, this shot underneath over here, and it's super long, but it's making the tree kind of all feel like it's leaning that way. So I'm gonna either have to maybe sit it up more next time we plant it. Gotta lean it a little bit more forward, because right now it's leaning a little bit to the back. It's back heavy. There's a branch in the middle there though, right there. This one right here, it's growing inside, actually towards the front. If I cut him off, now here's another big decision in the design of this tree. Now this one is going to be a shohin tree for a long, long time. Don't know if it'll get too much bigger than a little bit more than a shohin tree, because I'm not going for super big trunk. This is from a clipping. We're just enjoying the journey with this tree, which is what I love about how I do bonsai. I don't want this great big massive show tree tomorrow. I want to work on them every step of the way. So, but here's a big decision I could make. So this tree right now, let me turn the tree sideways here. Here's this branch back here. Here's the new growth. And this branch has a nice split here. And here's this thinner branch. Here's the thicker branch. Do I entirely cut this big branch off right here? right down to this new growth, and this becomes the new leader of this, one of the 3 main branches. And the reason why I say that is we always want to go from thick to thinner to thinnest. We have a thick trunk, a little bit thinner here, and then it starts to taper a little bit here, then here's that thinner and here's the thinnest. But if I cut this big chunky one off, I've got thick to thinner, this is even more thinner, and then smaller, and then I'd have my ramified tree. But that's if the tree is going to stay at 8. Another reason I'd consider cutting that branch back is these 3 I was talking about before. This one of these 3 branches comes off of this trunk and starts to curve up like this, and it's really cool from inside here. If I were to get rid of this branch right here, you'd be able to see that curve, or if I leave that branch there, you can still see the curve. That's the other decision. This branch right here would take over. So here we go, thick to thinner to thinnest to tertiary, real thin, right? And then the tree just going more back upright instead of in the back so big. So do I make that big cut today? The tree is healthy, it's vigorous. I could use that as a cutting because it's got movement in it already. I am going to cut this bottom branch down, so we know we're not going to use that one in the design. I'm going to hold off on that big decision because I'm not quite ready to make it yet. So we're going to move to the right side of the tree now. I'm starting to think about the right side of the tree. It's got this new growth right here, which is not really going to be conducive for what we're trying to do. So we cut that little. That was new again from the plant room in the last 5 months. Now we can see the design of the tree. So it goes up, back towards the back a little bit, then straight up for a little bit, then here's the split, and then there's another split right here, of course, and then this guy right here. It's just kind of got some curve and no leaves till way up here. So I would want something to back bud back here someday. And in order to do that, I certainly have to cut it back to get all that energy from the tip more further down the branch. And plus the light from all this pruning will help it as well. I've got a leaf right here that's growing right next to a branch. So I'm going to just cut that off so I can see better. There's also a leaf in here that's growing inside. So you'll see it right here by my finger. Go away. There it goes. Now you can see through the tree a little bit more. And if I were to trim that guy and trim that guy, you can see through the tree just a little bit more. These ficus are very, very known for, you've got a branch growing out and then you've got a leaf growing right underneath the branch that's growing out. So that was a perfect example of that. There's probably more in here. There's one right here. So right here there's a little leaf and here's the branch right behind it. So if I cut that leaf off, now you can see the branch right there. So this branch has some dieback right here. You can cut off the clip right there. It looks like, so this one's split right here. I like the health of the new one. Cut the old shoot off. Now I have some up, over movement naturally. You can see this leaf is curling up, it's not getting as much sun because of this guy. We're going to cut that off right here so this down branch starts to grow out more instead of up. This leaf is going straight up, I'll get rid of that. And this will start to get more sun. This is super tall. We'll cut to an out-facing leaf right here. These are some really big leaves. You certainly want them to go down in size when it gets bigger. Now I got these 2 branches in the back. I'm going back to the middle branch. These back 2 right here. Of those back 2, this bottom one's cutting right inside there. I'm going to cut that off. That's clouding up that inside. So see how we've cleaned up that tree so much now in that middle section? And now this branch right here is crisscrossing with this guy in the back. So the question here is, do I get rid of this entire branch right here? It's got taper and everything, but no leaves in there. But I've got the growth to the right. However, these 2, this branch and this branch, are kind of competing for some looks here. So I'd have to maybe bend this down someday to get that back one to be seen. I also can see the back one better if I cut off this top branch and just let this lower one grow. But I like the split right now. I'm just going to wait for that. So for this one, cut the tip off. I've got 4 leaves still on that one. I've got about 2, 4, I got a lot of leaves on this one. I'm gonna cut that one 2 more leaves off. Now back here you can't see this division, but it divides really nice right here. I'm gonna cut that back part off. Let's see what that does there. Now, do I keep this branch right here? I do if I cut off all the back. And I think I'm going to cut off that back one. I think I'm going to go for it. Cut off right here. Yeah. Rip that off. I've got a cutting right there. I could put that downstairs in the plant room or out here and let that grow. So there's my big cut. It's almost pencil thickness there that I just chopped off. And so that lightens up that back section of the tree right here. And so I've got this as the one that will take over for that, or even this one back here, or a combination of both. And the one back here already splits into 2, so that's super nice. We're just going to let those grow. Cut that one. And then this back lower one, I don't know what it's going to happen with that one, but it's real close to this. This could create a bulge here. But I will shorten it. So my Ficus Microcarpa, if that's what it is. If anybody can zoom up on this and tell me more precisely what it is. We got a nice trim on it today. Last up today is my one only true formal upright. It's one of my tamaracks. It's one of my first tamaracks I owned. I've had it for about 3 or 4 years. And I didn't do a lot of spring defoliation of any kind, or late spring, early summer. And so I just want to tidy this one up a little bit. We are trying to get the bottom of the tree bushier. This is really that traditional formal upright triangle shape, that conical shape. So we got to make this top part not so thick and soaking up all the energy to make sure that we have balance on the other parts of the tree. The trick for me is which is going to be the front. This is, I think, the front of this tree, only because this side, everything's coming out at us. So I think I've left it for the back of the tree. So we have this as the front. There is a pocket here with not a lot of branches. I was hoping to get some back budding here somewhere, like in here, somewhere in here. This branch back here is taken off real strongly, and it fills in the gap over here. It's just that, but that shows off the trunk as well, so I'm not so concerned about it. So we're going to start at the top here, and we're going to trim this down and then work down towards the bottom and do some directional pruning and get rid of some of the strong tip growth up here. So just a few minutes in, we have the tip of the tree kind of that really nice initial triangle shape. You can see I got rid of most of the new growth. Some of them just down to the bottom. We got some little itty bitty buds in there forming already. And pull off some of the older leaves from the year already that are really dark green. So these are nice new shoots that I also could just pinch. I don't need to use the scissors. Come down here and pinch these all a little bit shorter, and these of course will work on ramification. So I got some bushiness up here, got a branch here, and then it goes left, and then it goes right, and then it goes back, and they're in the exact same spot of each other. But I like the definition on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the right branch first, thin that out. I'll just thin that out a little bit there. And then in the back of the tree, that is the thicker of the two branches. This is the thinner one. It's growing at the same junction. That'll make a bulge possibly someday. But I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cut off a thick chunk there. So now there's still a little bit of growth here, and then it kind of comes over here. So now as you look at the front again, cleared out this space right here. This is the main branch. This one's kind of connected to it, but now it's going to go this way to provide a little filling for the gap right there. So some subtle changes like that to help give it some more clarity up there and not quite so bushy. And again, this bushiness will just take over all the power of the tree if we're not careful. I haven't touched any of the bottom half, but the top half, you can see how much I thinned it out, making sure that I'm going to keep the branches that I want to keep on there. A lot of new growth on this tree this year, so it's been very fun. This one was growing straight off the back, which again might have made this super thick down the road. We're going to cut this one that's shooting upward so it doesn't conflict with this right now and grows more out. Okay, so the top half of the tree is doing pretty well. As I wrap up here, just pulling off some of the needles that are just growing straight down in a thick cluster. Make sure all those leaves are growing mostly up or out. So that just cleans up the bottom a little bit. We took a fair amount out here. I cut more from this side than I was hoping to, but it was growing up really weird, and this two new growth here can take over and we'll just get some more growth. Plenty of thinning out here that the sun's going to get to all of these just fine. Again, some thinning out of the armpit areas to let this breathe. One of the good things, the more trees you have on your bench, like I'm starting to get a crazy amount of trees on my bench right now, and the multiple benches that I have, if there's no airflow through the trees, then you also run into the chance of having more pests and problems, fungus, pests, just troubles, right? So trying to keep our trees with some air, so there's some airflow. And so all this thinning out here gave this tree a lot of airflow. So there we go. Let's give the tamarack a final spin. And we'll get that back out on the benches. The Tamarack is on its bench, the Microcarpa and the Fukien Tea back on their benches, and they're all ready to go. And all the trees need a watering. The temps are getting up into the 80s already. The shade is expanding where I'm at, but the sun is still full force on most of the trees. So time to water, so I gotta go take care of that. Hey, thanks for watching. Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Tell all your friends, send in those comments. Again, I always appreciate those. Take care of yourself, take care of your bonsai, and we'll catch you very soon on the next episode of Dave's Bonsai.